Welcome to the Becker County Museum Roadshow. Today our guest is Rollie Kjos, and this is really special because we're going to visit about funeral homes, and we've had many questions about funeral homes lately, and we'll do the business from the past to the present. It's changed, hasn't it?
A lot. A lot. Yeah.
You know, I read in one old-time book where they said they kept the bodies, this was way out in the eastern part of the county, they filled, in the summer they filled bottles with ice water.
Oh.
Have you ever heard that?
No, I never heard of that one.
Okay, and put around the body. Yeah. Well, anyway, tell us how, as far as you know, the business got started in Detroit Lakes. Obviously, people are born and people die.
Yeah. Well, of course, I was associated with the present funeral home now, which is West Kjos. But when I came here in '59, the funeral home was owned by Bud and Tom West. And their father, along with them, started the funeral home in 1938. And the first funeral home was the old Carmen resident, Dr. Carmen, had a home on the corner of Lake and Frazee Street. And that's the funeral home that they operated on until we put the addition on. When I purchased the interest of Tom West in 1962, we added an addition to it.
Tell us about that. Why did you add the addition? Well,
it just wasn't enough. The facility was so limited with space and everything, and we needed more. But like I told you previously, Carolyn, when we showed the caskets upstairs in a room upstairs of this home, and we carried the caskets up the stairs and down the stairs. And I said, if I'm going to do this the rest of my life, I don't want to carry another casket. So we added the addition in 1963. We put the addition on, a 42 by 22 addition, and put an elevator in there so we could move the caskets up and down, and we had a casket display room in the basement along with the lavatories. And it worked out real nice. And of course the front end was used as a foyer, and the old part is a chapel. So that worked out very nice. And we were there until I retired in '86, and then of course they built the new funeral home here.
And the funeral home stood where the library?
Right on the corner of Frazee and Lake Street, right where the parking lot is right now. And and in fact, they had to move off there. We were declared eminent domain, and they chased us out of there.
Really?
Yep. I mean, that's, you know, it's amazing what government can do to you now. You know?
It is.
And we'd been there since '38, and this was in '86, and they said, no, we want that for the library, and you either accept what we give you, and it worked out all right too, because they moved into a new facility just down the street here from here. And but it's just the idea that they can do this to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, my oldest son always thought that the funeral home was heaven, because I told him his aunt had died and gone to heaven, and then I brought them to view the body, and obviously if she was in heaven, that's where he went. So that's been a family story in our family. Tell us now, we have two funeral homes in Detroit Lakes, and both are sort of started from that nun one, right?
Well, the nun was the old funeral home. They were started, I don't know, way back in the 1800s,
yeah.
1885. But then, of course, it became the England, and then they had furniture and funeral home. And the same with the West, we had a furniture store too. And it kind of worked in because, you know, you get a lot of these smaller towns that had a funeral home. It just didn't give them enough income to support their family. And consequently, they would start an allied business. And the furniture was always a nice, clean business to be associated with. And consequently, a lot of the funeral homes had furniture stores, which we did here too. And I got out of the furniture business in '66, and was just dedicated to the funeral home.
Okay.
Yeah.
I noticed that in Lake Park, Vegan Funeral Home was associated with a hardware store.
Hardware store.
So you had to do something to make a living.
Right, right.
Whatever
yes,
it was.
vegan, yeah. It's just amazing how many small town funeral directors had an allied business like this. In fact, I remember on South Dakota, I had a very good friend. He had a grocery store along with his business. And it worked out fine for him. And just gave them a little extra income for their survival. But you know, it's strange, you know, when I first came here, Tom and Bud West, and also Donna Hauer, they had ambulance service.
I was going to ask about that.
And that was associated with funeral homes because, you know, funeral homes, the funeral director was on 24/7. You know, they're on call. And the only business where people would be on call all the time, so naturally they says, well, why don't you take over the funeral or the ambulance business? And of course, we had an ambulance here when I first came up here to work for the Tom and Bud West, and it was about a 37 Plymouth 9-passenger converted to an ambulance. And of course, at that time, all they had was a gurney in there and a fire extinguisher and a first aid kit and a portable cot, and that's all that was in there. You know, it isn't like it is nowadays. And we used to get $5 a call for ambulance call, and then we were very fortunate if we even got paid for half of them.
Really?
But you know, you go on a call and you get the person, take them to the hospital, then you wait for x-rays there, you're dirtying sheets, then you spend maybe an hour or two there, then you go back and you get $5 for the call.
$5.
So things have changed a little bit.
They certainly have. Do you have some interesting stories about in your business?
Well, you know, it's amazing, you know, and another thing was when we used to print up these little folders, you know, for the funeral service. They used to do it at the local newspaper here. Well, and finally, they weren't open on Saturdays, so we had to go to Frazee, and the fellow over there would do it for us. So we'd drive over there and have them printed up. Well, finally, after a couple of years, I decided, well, maybe we could do something ourselves, so I bought a little portable printer. It was a cast iron little printer that was all typeset by hand, and that's how we used to print up our folders.
Okay.
So, and now, of course, now it's all on computers and all on copy machines and everything. Now it's amazing what they do now. You know, this technology that we have nowadays is unbelievable. And you think of it, when I go back and what we did and what they do now with all this technology, it's unbelievable. The only thing that hasn't changed in funeral service is the embalming procedure.
Is that right?
Everything else has changed, yeah.
Well, we're going to pick this up, some more interesting stories in just a few minutes.
Okay.
But thank you, and stay tuned. We will have some more stories.